Welcome to the Brew, Drink, Run podcast, brought to you by the only website that promotes brewing your own beer, consuming the best craft beers in the world, and then running off the calories. BrewDrinkRun.com.
It is episode 56 of the Brew, Drink, Run podcast. My name is Lee.
This is Keith.
I'm Raymond.
In this episode, we are drinking beers from Lagunitas and Terrapin, as well as talking homebrewing, and we're joined to talk running with Matt Gray, the founder of Craft Brew Races. If you like the show, please rate us on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you grab your podcast and write a short review. Those ratings and reviews help more people to find the show. Or tell your friends by posting about the show on Facebook or Twitter, and be sure to tag us at Brew, Drink, Run. We start every episode with a beer. Keith, what are we drinking?
We have Lagunitas Brown Shugga Ale. It is a sweet release. Comes in at 9.9% alcohol by volume. And this is a wintertime seasonal for them. Most years, when they were doing an expansion, of course, they could not fit this into their schedule. And that's where Lagunitas Sucks came from, which almost became more beloved than Brown Shugga. And they're brewing both of them, so lucky us.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy story, and it's a fun one. I think that Lagunitas, their ability to not take themselves too seriously, which has kind of been tarnished in the last couple of days.
Yeah, we'll make it to that in a minute.
You know, they had a certain reputation about themselves that they were able to kind of pull off this cool bro kind of thing for a long time.
Yeah, they really did. I mean, everything about their beers are just sort of not taken too seriously, whether it comes down to cost. Still one of the better quality beers you can get at a quality price, I think, in the craft beer world. I haven't seen their prices really creeping up too terribly much. Solid beers at a good price and plentiful. I mean, they're always available. You know, I don't see markets that get this beer getting shut out of it. They seem to make enough of it. I know they're expanding into the Chicago area as well with I don't know if it's a brew pub or something of that nature, but that might actually expand their distribution a little bit too. And, yeah, I mean, they make really good beer.
Yeah, and I think that they've spent their money in some really cool creative places, too, in terms of marketing. Their couch surfing tour deal they did. When we had the guys from The Accomplices on, Lagunitas helped sponsor some of their tour, which is really cool. So a long history of kind of building up a lot of credibility by making these interesting, well-crafted, good-tasting beers at an affordable price point, and then spending that advertising money on kind of cool things. And then all of a sudden, that came to a screeching halt with their Cool Factor last week when they launched a lawsuit against Sierra Nevada. Mm-hmm. You know, when you hear it said out loud, it sounds just completely ridiculous. But basically, over the usage of the letters IPA in packaging for a new Sierra Nevada beer. Yeah. And so, of course, the internet erupts with, oh my gosh, you can't trademark IPA. That's so crazy. What are they doing? And then they're trying to infringe this or to enforce this trademark that they have on it. But their problem was actually with how the letters IPA are presented in the packaging. In their opinion, that new Sierra Nevada package used the letters in a way that was too similar to how they were doing it on one of their packages.
The fonts were similar, the way things were blocked off were similar, that sort of thing.
It was an interesting thing because I saw this, and I don't even think that they didn't necessarily have a little bit of a case in the argument. I think it's a little bit absurd that anyone would confuse the two beers ultimately. At least anyone who knows what they're getting into. Maybe if you're a supermarket shopper and you had this beer at a bar and then you go to the local grocery store chain to buy it, and this beer in Lagunitas and the Hop Hunter, is that what it is from Sierra?
I think so, yeah.
Something like that. Their new beer. If they're sitting right side by side, you might get confused because you only glanced at the label. I get what they were trying to protect, but you're talking about craft beer. You're talking about a community that knows the difference between Lagunitas and Sierra Nevada. They know what the differences are. There are a lot of beers that have that similar kind of block lettering for IPA. I mean, it's an acronym, it's large letters. So they really almost they got kind of what they deserved in, I think, the public backlash in a way. But I get it. I get what they were, whatever lawyer, whatever person was saying is like, hey, this is, and their labels are that way. We're looking at the Brown Shugga one. It's almost just all letters, and it's big block letters. That is what they're kind of known for in their labels. Not a lot of design, pictures, art, a little bit, but not a lot. So I get it, but just for as vocal as they are a lot of times about the industry and kind of going after people, it was really, really not very well received. And
totally against their, hey, whatever bro culture that they've, kind of built up for themselves. And that laid back, hey, we're just making beer because beer's cool. And, we're just some cool guys making beer. To do that because, I know that they would never run afoul of any sort of trademark arrangements themselves. Right. So, because it's just some words, right? I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's just some words and how you use them. And so there's not only this, but, we've got Dixie Crystal, who I'm sure probably has a very legitimate lawsuit just waiting against Lagunitas for their use of brown sugar.
Yep, sure. Mm-hmm.
And that as well. So it's all pretty silly. But back to the beer, we'll start with how this one looks. Raymond, describe how this one looks in the glass for us.
It's a very coppery orange color, very clear. I see my fingers through the glass, a little cloudy, but nice head on it, sticks to the glass. It's a good looking beer. It's pretty. It's got some good color to it.
Yeah,
nice kind of golden coppery color to it. Yeah, it's actually really nice, little red tints to it. I always feel a little bit surprised seeing this come out of the glass for whatever reason. After years gone by, I go, oh yeah, it looks like that. And so it's a nice beer. It's got a wonderful aroma on it, especially if you like hoppy things. So basically, what they brewed is a hop forward, which is pretty much everything they do is hop forward. American strong ale, in this case, brewed with a lot of brown sugar. Yep. So it's going to be sweet, but in this case, it's very hoppy and it's got that great kind of tropical fruit profile in it. Well, and surprisingly, those two combinations, that brown sugar sweetness and that tropical fruit sweetness, work really well together. Then you put in a good bit of that kind of West Coast bitter pine, and it makes a great combo.
And I think it's important to know that brown sugar is also going to bump up the alcohol content of this as well. Mm-hmm. This is coming in just under 10%. This is the one that's famously 9.9999.
Yeah, something like that. This year on the label it says 9.9, but I do believe I've seen it written as 9.99 in the past. If not this beer, another beer from them. So
I think it's this one. And so that's a really funny way to get around, I'm sure, some states' antiquated percentage ordinance to get it as close as they could to the line. We talked about the sucks version of this as well, how that kind of plays into people's expectations. And so for a while, for me anyway, the sucks was really hard to find, and the sugar was everywhere. And this year, the last 2 years, I guess, it's kind of been the opposite.
It was a little bit opposite, yeah.
Been able to find the sucks everywhere, and was really psyched to find a couple of 6-packs of this back before the holidays.
Okay.
And
see, I just got mine like maybe like last week or the week before. I just walked into the right store at the right time, said, oh, there it is. Let me grab a 6-pack of it. I mean, I'm always looking for a 6-pack of this, but, like I was saying before with Lagunitas, it's all stuff that, at least for me, that I've had before. So if I miss out, I miss out. It's kind of a bummer. And this year I really haven't been buying nearly as much sucks as normal because I don't really like the format choice that they've made with the big, like, kind of 40 bottle. I would probably buy a 6-pack of that easily a couple of times. Usually it's kind of stock up on that. I mean, it's almost kind of a poor man's hop slam in a lot of ways. It's got the same kind of qualities as that, but at a much more readily available price. And man, those big bottles, it's like I don't really want to tackle that if I want to drink the beer.
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing. When I saw that big bottle, I was like, nope. I'm not going to just sit down and drink that. And I love having it around. But at the same time, it's not one that I would necessarily have to share. It's not special enough for certain types of things. But if you're going to a party, it would sub for a growler, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You just have that big old, put it in a brown paper bag and sit in the corner and enjoy your evening. I
think it's kind of a clever idea, but not necessarily working for me. I would much rather have a beer like that in a 6-pack, and this one is one I'm almost surprised it doesn't come in a 22-ounce bottle. It's almost like the reverse. They do some of their beers in 22s, exclusively, like the Harry Eyeball. This last time that came around, it was in a 22 as opposed to a 6-pack, and they seem to rotate that, and they also seem to do things in both. So when I saw those big bottles of Sucks, I thought, certainly they're going to have 6-packs following behind this, and yet to see them, and I've yet to see anyone, like a picture of them on any of the beer forums or Instagram or any of that other kind of stuff that I spend time on, not seeing any small bottles, so I guess they just chose this big format for whatever reason.
What I love about this beer and what I go back to on it is the spicing characteristic on it. It's really interesting because it has a lot of kind of baked goods, desserty type of spicing that I feel like is prevalent in the flavor for it, but it's highly drinkable. Yeah. It's got a great hop profile that complements it, and that amber, copper, malty body. It's just like the perfect layer.
It is.
Of influence together.
I always thought about this the first time I had it is like, oh, this is the IPA drinker's sipper. I don't think of IPAs as beers that I sip. I get through them. I move on to the next one. If that's the one beer I'm having, when I'm done, I'm done. This one has a great combination of the kind of beer you just kind of want to sip on a little bit. You don't want to rush yourself through because it's got some complex flavor. But at the same time, it is very IPA-like. Very double IPA without actually really being a double IPA. This doesn't drink like a double IPA to me, even though it has a lot of the flavor profile and the hop character I love in a double IPA.
I always have to actually look up what style it is when I'm talking about it, because American Strong is one of those kind of catch-alls.
It's a total catch-all. Yeah.
Because I, normally would think, okay, well, it's really hoppy. It's a little bit on the boozier side. It's probably, but then the malt characteristic isn't right.
It falls on. It's almost like a companion in some ways to Stone's Arrogant Bastard, which is a beer that is just sort of in that catch-all category, and it's ridiculously hoppy, but it's also a malt-forward kind of sipper at the same time. So this beer has a nice combination, a nice contradiction of flavors and styles that really blends well together. I always look for this, look out for it. It's one of the handful of Lagunitas beers that are on my search for radar. I often pick up 6-packs from them just when I'm looking to stock the beer. Their Pilsner's great. It's, a little something's great. They have a bunch of really great beers, but this is one where I'm paying attention when I know it's coming out, so I need to go look for it.
And it smells amazing. This beer has an amazing aroma. It's one of those things that if they could make a candle of, I would totally burn that candle. It would get all romantic up in here and stuff. It would be fantastic to get that. Raymond, how's your homebrewing going? I hear you ordered some stuff.
I did. I placed a big order this weekend. Got plans for the next weekend.
Nice.
Got some gear to finish off my kegging. We've got... a valve of some sort to make sure the next pot is good to go, a boiling pot, and got enough grains and yeast and all that good stuff for two brews.
Awesome. And so when's that stuff showing up?
Probably on Wednesday.
Wow. So you expedited it, or no? That's already. It's been that long.
I guess it's a holiday, so
awesome.
maybe a little later than that, but soon.
Well, that's really cool. I'm totally looking forward to that. What are the two recipes that you bought?
Found an Allagash white clone, and a Founder's Breakfast Stout clone. I decided to go that route, so we'll see how that happens.
Fun. Are these both Northern Brewer or More Beer, or who'd you use?
I ordered through Northern Brewer, but I didn't do kits. I found some partial mash recipes online and just kind of went with those.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah. I think that's cool to do that. The Allagash White is a total easy beer. It's one your wife likes a lot, so that kind of justifies some of this money that you're spending.
Yep, exactly.
So totally smart picks for both of those. I had a brew day a couple of days ago, I brewed up an Imperial Blonde, and I was looking for. Our winter has been so incredibly mild, and I love that about living here. And I like having a lighter-bodied beer on hand just to drink. It's one of my, a style that I just like to go to. I'm getting more and more accustomed to grabbing a stout out of the fridge for, my late-night beers. But for day drinking, sometimes I like to have something that's a little bit lighter. But I wanted something with a higher ABV level because why not? I mean, I'm making the beer.
Yeah.
I might as well make the beer. And so with that, Imperial Blonde seemed to be good because I also thought it might be a nice base to do a little bit of experimenting with. So I did a jalapeno cream ale a couple of months ago. The recipe for that's up on the website. We've had some good feedback for that. A couple other people who made it and said that it turned out really well. For me, it was a little bit of a disappointment because it had a lot of the flavor of the jalapeno, but not the heat.
Right.
And so I was looking at ways to brew a pepper beer or produce a pepper beer that had the heat with the flavor. So I wanted kind of a mild base beer. And so you can't get much milder than a blonde.
Not much.
With the pounds and pounds of sugar I put in it. We'll see how that all does, that imperial part there. But so what I've decided to do, I looked at a couple of different methods for pepperizing your beer in terms of putting it in at the end of your boil, letting it sit through your primary, letting it age in your secondary. I looked at lots of different methods, but the one that was exciting and interesting to me that for whatever reason I never really thought of was actually slicing up the peppers into thin strips. And for this, I'm looking at habaneros.
Okay.
But I may do a couple of different ones just to see. Cutting up thin strips and actually putting it in the bottle when you bottle the beer.
Oh. Interesting.
Okay.
And so it's just a way to do it. It continues to leach out the longer it stays in the bottle, so it might be with a bigger beer with a higher ABV. A really interesting, not only experiment with maybe some different peppers, but also with time.
Aging. Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of definitely not something that probably a big brewery would ever do.
No.
But
yeah, I doubt it. That would be way too time consuming for a large brewery.
That's the benefit of home brewing is that you can just, who cares? If it doesn't turn out, oh well. I'm not going to do the whole batch like that.
Yeah.
I figure I'm going to take a third of it. If I have a good yield on this, I might take a third or a little bit less. And, do 10 bottles for habaneros, write my dates on them so I know what's what. Do the same thing for maybe a couple of different other peppers. Yeah. Kind of see what happens. Yeah. And who knows, maybe some of those will just end up being real tongue-torching mouth burners. Or, maybe do some anchos, things that are just, really kind of meaty flavor peppers too.
Oh, yeah, ancho would be probably pretty interesting in a blonde. Because the blonde's going to carry kind of whatever flavors you add to it because they're so bland isn't really the word I want to use, but they kind of are. They're
lacking in complexity.
Lacking, yes. Okay.
Yeah. Let's just say that. So I think that would be really interesting to do and kind of put together a list and kind of see how that turns out as a fun little science experiment, which brewing always is.
Yeah.
I mean, you never can really tell what you're going to get. And especially with these kind of peppers and the meatier peppers too, you usually now are seeing those in stouts because they can help mask and combine this with some of the other flavors you're probably putting in. I mean, if you're doing a Mexican chili beer, of course, you're going to have some chocolate in there. You're going to have some, these different Mexican peppers that you're going to put in and really create maybe some cinnamon, make this interesting Mexican cake kind of idea with what you're doing. So with this, it's really about letting the individual pepper shine and seeing what happens when you put it in there. And then you also have the whole tequila. Hey, who's going to eat the worm? Who's going to eat that pepper? Who's at the bottom of it?
There you go.
Who's just been sucking up that 9% beer? It's not really quite the same thing, but I'll play along. We are joined by Matt Gray. Matt is the founder of Craft Brew Races. You can find out more about that at craftbrewraces.com. We're super excited because Craft Brew Races is coming to Savannah, Georgia on Sunday, March 15th. That starts at noon. And the cool thing about Craft Brew Races is that it is a 5K followed by a beer festival. And this is not something that's exclusive to Savannah. In fact, they've got lots of other dates all around the country. You can go to craftbrewraces.com to find out more, but upcoming events include in Stowe, Vermont, Portland, Oregon, Newport, Rhode Island, New Haven, Connecticut, even more. Go to craftbrewraces.com. Matt, how's it going?
Great, Lee. Thanks. How are you?
We are doing fantastic. And as we've been talking about, we've been drinking a really nice beer tonight. We've been enjoying Lagunitas' Brown Shugga and trying to cut them some slack for their recent PR debacle. But what are you drinking tonight, Matt?
I have a Captain's Daughter, which is a double IPA from Gray Sail Brewing of Rhode Island. It's a very new and popular beer in the region. Has a lot of mosaic hops, so you can really tell the flavor of the mosaic hops in it when you smell it and when you taste it.
Mosaic, super sexy right now.
Yeah, a lot of people doing mosaic beers.
Which is kind of cool. I mean, I think that, so many people get kind of used to whatever has been easily available. I mean, like nobody is going out of their way to be like, oh, I'm brewing a Willamette hops, whatever. So that's really cool, and that's nice. You're drinking local. You're up that way, right?
Yeah, we're based in Newport, Rhode Island. Our company is founded in Newport, and there are only 14 microbreweries / brew pubs in Rhode Island. So it's nice to see one of them making kind of a big splash regionally.
That's kind of a lot of breweries for such a small state. I guess talking about size and compared to, so that's actually not. That's pretty respectable for a small state like Rhode Island.
It's definitely not a bad thing, but compared to somebody like Portland, Maine, who has
or Portland,
in the
Oregon,
actual city of one city. So
yeah,
but I think we've come a long way in the last couple of years, which is really, really nice to see. We also own the Rhode Island Brew Festival, and the Rhode Island Brew Fest has grown every year locally, as well as having the regional brewers come. But it's very exciting to watch.
Well, I'm going to talk to you about that because Gray Matter Marketing has its hands in not only other races other than Craft Brew Races, but also in beer festivals. So maybe I'll start with the running part. And are you a runner yourself?
I would consider myself an athlete, maybe not a traditional runner. I don't think, a 5K would probably be within my wheelhouse, but anything outside of that is probably a little too far for me. I'm more of I played rugby for many, many years and other sports as well. Now I've settled down into golf. I think that's more my speed.
Well, and the other side of it is beer. And obviously you're talking the talk with the beer that you've got with you tonight. But where does your craft beer influence or, kind of experience come from?
I guess, I was always in college, had a lot of the light beers, traditional light beers. And I did notice when I drank a Harpoon or a Long Trail Brew or a Sam Adams that there was something more to those beers. And as the years have progressed, obviously with the influx of new breweries and just the varieties of beer, it's been kind of a learning experience for me along with many, many others out there. And my background has always been event management for the last 10 years. So when I saw an opportunity to host a beer festival on Cape Cod, we took it, and that was one of the first events I started as Gray Matter Marketing, and it was truly a huge success, and spurred the Rhode Island Brew Festival, and now ultimately the Craft Brew Races.
So, whose idea was it to put running and the festival together? Was that something that you came up with to kind of combine these two hot events into one big event?
Yeah, absolutely. So the other part of our business has been running events. So I've been working on marathons, half marathons for years. So when we started our business, when I started this business, just thought of ways to get people together. And we saw opportunities in road races, but we also saw opportunities in beer festivals. And after about a year of putting on both, we saw that there was a great crossover in some of the people who were attending both events. We really, truly thought that, beer and running go hand in hand, and they always have. But the craft beer movement allowed us to have this opportunity to produce an event with, a really fun 5K festival, also with a beer festival, and to truly make it as local as possible everywhere we did it. the first inclination came to us, and we created a Twitter handle and went out there and started talking about what we were going to do, and it really caught on fast. Then we put that idea into motion in 2014 with 5 events throughout New England. It was a pretty big task to put on 5 events in 1 year for a small business like ours, and we were very excited to see the results pan out for us. And then, as we were planning for the next year, we saw opportunities. The series could have resonance everywhere, and actually your group, Brew Drink Run, was one of the first groups that we connected with online. And I think, Lee, you and I remember that was in the infancy of the Craft Brew Races concept, and we're very, very happy to be coming to Savannah in 2015.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you think about it. I mean, it was not that long ago that we chatted about this, and then all of a sudden, not only do those New England races happen, but if you look at your schedule for 2015, there are races on both coasts. I mean, there is a lot going on for you guys, which is really cool. And I love the fact that you mentioned the local aspect, because the first breweries who signed on to be at the beer festival that you announced here in Savannah for the beer festival component were local breweries, and not even just the Savannah ones, like, of course, Southbound and Service and Coastal will be there, but the Atlanta ones, some of the brand new ones like Second Self that have not been around that long are already signed up to be a part of it. So what's your methodology when it comes to reaching out to the brewers? Do you do that directly, or do you go through distributors? How do you decide who's going to be at the festival?
Well, technology today is a beautiful thing. So we've had an opportunity to reach out through social media, through a lot of folks, and that helped us get our foot in the door with a few of them before they maybe even got a phone call from us. So the cold call maybe wasn't so cold. We pretty much target every brewery within the geographic area where our event's being held. For instance, in Savannah, we reached out to all the Savannah-based breweries first with an email, and then we follow up with a phone call. So we had a great response initially. And I think part of the response comes from the fact that we buy all the beer from the craft breweries, whether you're a small brewery like Second Self or a big nationwide brewery like Sam Adams. We purchase the beer because we want to show our respect to the brewers for the craft that they're creating for us. The race and the festival, they generate enough money for us to sit back and go, okay, we did a great thing here. But, really it is important for us to give back to the brewers and make sure that they feel not just welcome, but also that we're celebrating what they do and what they've brought to the local economy. Obviously, the craft beer industry has had a big rejuvenation in the last few years. Local craft breweries were a dime a dozen before Prohibition, but now they are really drivers of economic development in local areas, and we want to celebrate that too as a small business. It's important to us to share in that, and we've got a great response from that. We also partner with the Brewers Guild. We always reach out to the Brewers Guild and everywhere that we're hosting an event and ask them to be a partner in the event. What we're seeking from them really isn't much, but we just want to show them that if we have to choose a nonprofit partner to be a part of the event, that it would make sense to give back to the brewing community and celebrate what they're trying to do in places like Savannah and even Charleston. Giving back to those communities is hopefully going to mean big things in the future as the laws continue to change and the emphasis on local breweries becomes more important to the state's economies.
Well, I love that. And that's a little bit inside baseball for some people, but that idea that the festival pays for the beer makes a world of difference. That it's not something that the brewery is donating or, is maybe going to get paid on the back end some other way. The fact that it's being bought outright makes a huge difference from the perspective of the breweries involved, because it is a vote of confidence and a vote of support. And those are also usually the festivals where you end up getting a much better variety, some rarities, some different kind of aspects to the brew festival than just here are our 2 main beers, come try our main line. Because having that additional enthusiasm and respect for the brewery makes a world of difference. And partnering with the Georgia Brewers Guild, I'm sure that they appreciated that extra vote of support as well, because their in cahoots with all the other breweries. They have to be. That's their whole job, is to help with marketing and promotion and lobbying and all those other aspects of local breweries. So you started up in the Northeast, which is where you're based. How did Savannah come up on your radar for a location to host an event?
Well, Savannah is obviously a beautiful destination, so that off the bat is a great reason to come there. We know that the running community is very strong. We know that the Rock and Roll Marathon has been very popular. But personally, I actually have relatives through my wife who live down there, and it's a tremendous excuse to come down and visit them. And, that's one of the reasons that it was a target market for us originally. And it just worked out when we reached out to we reached out to Savannah Sports Council. We reached out to the Travel and Tourism Bureau. We were welcomed with the concept from the outset, which was a huge thing for us. I mean, obviously, we're trying to expand this series around the country, and there's a lot of markets that this would work in very well, and we expect to be in as many markets as we can in the coming years. But we're very, very happy with the positive response we got from the Savannah Tourism Councils. And, obviously our connection, yours and ours through Twitter at the Brew Drink Run crew certainly wasn't a bad thing either. You were one of the first to latch on to the idea of this could be a great concept and it could work. And so that helped us along the way. So thank you for reaching out to us early on.
Oh no, the whole idea is totally in our wheelhouse. Obviously, we're super excited about it, and I think I love that there's a personal connection to Savannah as well. I'm glad that the local community leaders in that area stepped up, but I don't think there's much coincidence that this is happening on the Sunday before St. Patrick's Day, and Savannah is known around the world for their St. Patrick's Day parade and festivities, and the weekend before St. Patrick's Day, whichever weekend is closest to St. Patrick's Day, is typically the party weekend. That's when they cordon off the River Street area, and you have to get a wristband to drink on the street. Normally you can just drink on the street without a wristband.
Very disappointing for locals.
Yeah, it's a little different for locals, but we have a big influx of tourists during that amount of time. And did St. Patrick's Day influence your choice of dates at all?
Actually, it did not. It just happened to be one of the few dates on the calendar that we were given from the convention center that made sense in our calendar, our annual calendar as well. Outside of the Craft Brew Races, of which we have about 10 this year, and 11th will be announced next week. We have a variety of other races and festivals that we produce as a very small business. There's 4 of us. And so it just happened to be that weekend was the target weekend, and the convention center was open. And I understand that there is a very large St. Patrick's Day festival, and as an Irish American, I'm very excited about the opportunity to be down there. But strangely enough, it was more coincidental than you might think.
Well, I think you hit the jackpot.
Yeah, I think you did.
I think that was a great bit of good fortune that hit your way, and hopefully that'll show itself in the numbers of registrants. And Brew Drink Run has its own team. If you're interested in signing up for Team Brew Drink Run, you can go to facebook.com/brewdrinkrun. We've pinned it to the top of our Facebook page. You can see a post there with a link to join our team. And Matt has been gracious enough to extend a $5 discount for your entry. And the cool thing about this, so it's a 5K followed by a beer fest. I can't say that enough. It's a it's a 5K. 5K. It's not going to take you very long to run it.
It'll be done in no time.
And it's followed by a legitimate beer festival. In most of these towns, there are more than 30 breweries who are representing, who are bringing things. It's a chance to come and meet your local brewers if you haven't done so already. And also maybe try some things you haven't had before. Matt's been gracious enough to offer us a $5 discount to that race. Use the code BrewDrinkRunDiscount when you're checking out to get that $5 discount. That is very cool. Matt, thanks so much for making time for us tonight. Thanks for bringing Craft Brew Races to Savannah. To find out more about this, go to craftbrewraces.com. Cheers, Matt. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, guys. Thanks, Lee, Keith, Raymond, for having me on tonight. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thank you.
And what about reading? There's a leisure time activity that will help you learn things you'd like to know about many subjects.
Raymond's Book Corner.
As you all know, we're all about running and homebrewing and, of course, drinking great beer. But what you might not realize is that we also love to read, but not really read so much because that actually takes up time and that sort of thing. So instead, we recommend that you have someone read to you. And we go to Raymond's Book Corner to get recommendations on books that no one actually wants to read. So we let audible.com give you a free download of the audiobook and let someone else read it to you. Sometimes it's a celebrity. Sometimes it's not. A 30-day free trial from Audible. Or if you really like to read, go to brewdrinkrun.com. Take a look in this episode's show notes for a link to buy the book from Amazon. Either way, we get paid. Raymond, what have you got for us today?
I had a great one, a great book. I actually read it about 10, 12 years ago and saw it on the shelf at the library, so I picked it up. It's called The Lost Painting. It's by Jonathan Harr, Harr. It's kind of a dual story. One part of it's about an art historian, and the other is about an art conservator, and they kind of go looking for the same painting, and all their two stories kind of cross over, and they find the painting. Not really a spoiler because you can totally see it's everywhere. It is the best Caravaggio painting in my opinion that's out there. It is an amazing painting. You should go, look it up. It's the. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Raymond.
And read this one. I got to tell you, one of my favorite readers right now is Campbell Scott. He's a fantastic Audible book reader. You know the actor? Celebrity?
Campbell Scott? I don't think I did.
J. Scott Campbell was the artist.
No,
for
like the guy from
Gen 13
Singles.
What?
Oh, he was the normie?
The normie? What?
Single, the movie Singles?
Yeah.
There's the one normie, the guy who moves into the neighborhood who's like a normal dude.
Yeah. And he's in that
Campbell?
movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Campbell Scott.
Yeah, that guy.
Campbell Scott.
Campbell Scott.
Dates
It's from Singles.
Yeah.
Bridget's character. This is actually the second Singles almost reference because if you're going to make the
No,
beer,
not
make
Bridget's.
the beer.
What?
If you're going to have the operation. He's the doctor, right?
What are you talking about?
Scott Campbell. The movie
Campbell
Singles.
Scott.
Whatever. Campbell Scott. He's got two first names. I don't know. Campbell. He's got his last name first. Campbell Scott. Who is this dude? Oh, who is this dude? He was in the movie Singles?
Yeah.
What?
Wait, what are you talking about? There's no doctor in Singles.
There is the plastic surgeon.
What?
She goes to see the plastic surgeon to get the boob job. And he's like, have the
No,
operation, have the operation.
He's the main guy. He's the one that the whole story kind of follows. He's the one that finds the girl and...
Oh, I thought the whole movie was about Matt Dillon.
No.
Yeah, Citizen Dick. That band's awesome. Have you seen that? Like Pearl Jam's in that
Pearl
band.
Jam.
It's
Oh,
great.
yeah.
And Alice in
Eddie,
Chains.
Eddie
and...
Vedder's their drummer. They're fantastic. Oh, whatever. It's been a...
Anyway, he's a good... He reads... He gives a good read.
So if you're wondering what Campbell Scott was doing this day, he's reading books. And let me tell you, one of your previous recommendations, Hell at the Breach. Did you recommend that one?
Yeah.
Oh, I got it from
Fantastic.
somewhere.
He's the Alabama guy. He's
Alabama
from
guy.
The same hometown.
I've just started reading that.
Oh.
It is wordy as all get out, that book. There are
good.
a lot of words in this book, you guys.
Yeah, I don't like words.
Wait, you're taking my recommendations now?
I just tried. We'll see if I finish it. It's very
he's
interesting.
attempting to.
Yeah, through the first 10 pages, it's really interesting.
Yeah, okay,
but it's
okay,
very
okay.
wordy. To download your free audiobook today, to go to audibletrial.com/brewdrinkrun. Again, that's audibletrial.com/brewdrinkrun for your free audiobook. Or go to brewdrinkrun.com, click on the show notes for this episode, and click the link to buy at amazon.com. The Lost Painting by Jonathan Harr, read by Singles' own Campbell Scott. Not Scott Campbell, not Matt Dillon, not whoever I'm calling Bridget. Campbell Scott. We'll be right back. And we are back, and it is grand tasting time. And for our grand tasting tonight, Keith, what are we drinking?
We have Terrapin's French Toasted Wake and Bake. This is one of their new white label specialty line offerings. Last year, of course, they did the cinnamon rolled Wake and Bake. This time they're doing French Toasted, which is oh so clever. Thankfully for me, Raymond found a growler of this at the Beer Growler here in Savannah, so I don't have to fight through that wax. I'm just pouring this so nicely and easily out of this little 32-ounce growler, trying to get everyone a good amount of beer. All right, here we go.
I've got a bottle too, and I didn't want to fight the wax because I'd seen Lee do that earlier this week. Yeah,
I was kind of glad that I'm going to get to try this. I actually had just put one of them in one of the two bottles I have in the fridge, and so hopefully I really like this and I know I've got one to drink here pretty soon, but might share that with the wife or something next weekend or something.
Well, I'd say the odds are pretty good that you're not.
I think so, too.
I really liked it. So I had this last week. I braved the bottle. So with this Specialty Reserve series, especially, I guess, exclusively with the Wake and Bake varieties, they have been doing a double dip wax. And last year, it made a lot of sense because it was a cinnamon rolled Wake and Bake. So it was gold, and it was like an ivory kind of wax. So it looked kind of, the colors of a cinnamon roll. They did the same thing with the French Toasted. So you had two layers of wax to get through when it was time to open the bottle. And I kind of thought I was prepared because I had read online so many people complaining about the wax on this and what a nightmare it was. So I got out my utility drawer in the kitchen. Everybody's got one of those, the drawer with all of your random tools in.
Yes, sure.
And got ready. So I got out a kitchen torch.
Mm-hmm. Like creme brulee kind of torch?
No, like the kind you would use to like light a pilot stove, like one of those really long ones. Not the little butane torches, but just a regular long kitchen torch. And I got a short fulcrum opener, like I've got a credit card bottle opener, so a short one. And I got a pretty sharp paring knife. So those are my tools that I used for this. So I started with the paring knife just to see how bad this wax situation was. It was horrible. Like it was, I'm sawing, trying to get down to the bottle, and I'm not making any headway around it. So that's where the lighter comes in. And the great thing about wax is you get it hot, and it's pretty easy to get through it. Mm-hmm. So I got the wax hot on one side, was able to, again, use that paring knife and actually kind of cut a V-shaped gouge underneath the cap. Finding where the cap is, like, how many bottles have I held in my life? And I'm like, I know where the cap is. No, apparently I don't. I went way too low on the neck for where the cap should be because the wax was so thick. Yeah. Because the double layer, you couldn't tell where the cap ended. So it took a little bit to get the right spot. But once I got the wax hot, I cut that little gouge in on one side and kind of moved around, clockwise around the bottle. And I got enough of the wax cut in that I could get my short fulcrum opener kind of around the top. Mm-hmm. And then I was able to pull it back. So I didn't try to get the wax all the way off the whole thing. I got it off one side, and then I could pry it back.
The lighter is brilliant. I never thought to try and melt the wax. I would
and
always
it smelled wonderful.
Yeah, because it's all that flavoring, the perfume in it, right? Not perfume, but they put some kind of oil or drop in there that make it smell like French toast.
That's the rumor, right? So I didn't know that until
I don't even know if it's a rumor. I thought I saw them actually post about how good it smelled because they were wax dipping that day. So
I don't know. I didn't look into it that far. Like when I checked in or I put it on Instagram, and somebody commented, I'm like, I bet that smelled great because I heard the label or the wax was scratch and sniff. I'm like, ooh, scratch and sniff wax. That's a fan. Back to my beer candle idea. Let's get back to that real quick. But it smelled great. So whatever they did, if it was just the whole hot wax thing or if it was an actual scented wax.
Yeah, I do think they put like a scented oil or some kind of scented something in there. So yeah, pretty impressive.
Raymond, describe how this baby looks in a glass.
Man, it's just black. It is thick and you can't see anything through it. A little lacing on the top here for the head, and that's about it. It's
dark. It's pretty dark.
Yep,
dark beer.
It is,
and it smells like just straight up coffee.
It's coffee.
It smells like wake and bake. It is wake and bake. If you've ever had wake and bake, it smells a lot like wake and bake. And I think if you really sit there smelling it for a few minutes, you start to get a little bit of that mapley syrup kind of thing going on. But you have to try. Because it's really coffee dominant. So.
Jittery Joe's, is that the name?
Yeah,
of
they
them?
use Jittery Joe's.
Jittery Joe's, yeah. Which is, I'm curious about the history of that because Jittery Joe's back when I was in college was this real hole in the wall little spot, but apparently it's something else now because there are Jittery Joe's all over the place, and it's the same logo and everything else. So I don't know if they sold or if they just decided to expand or what, but it's a much bigger empire now than it was back in the early '90s for sure. But good on those guys, whatever the deal is, using a local coffee
Absolutely.
company.
You always love to see that.
Athens-based to do their collaboration with. What about the taste, you guys? That's kind of normally the thing that we talk the most about.
It tastes really good.
Yeah, it does.
It is, and it is different than wake and bake.
Yeah, it's got there's a little maple in there.
There's a little maple syrup there on the. I get it right on the front of the taste, and then I get it big time on like the finish and the aftertaste, making it just different enough from wake and bake to be something worth seeking out and being special. It's not as different as last year's wake and bake variant to me, which I think was almost distinctly a different beer. But this is really, really, really good. I love what that little maple syrup note does to this.
Mm-hmm. And I think the maple syrup is the defining piece of this beer. I agree 100%. It is not as different as Cinnamon Rolled was from base wake and bake. This is overall very similar to wake and bake, but with that extra syrupy sweet note.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm trying to compare this to the bottle. I mean, it's been a week. I've had lots of beers in between then and now. I want to say that I picked up more of the spicing on my last taste. Yeah. It could be what we drank before this. Sure. It could be any number of things that have influenced my palate. Because with that, it was very much I'm going to sit down and drink this beer, and I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah. And you had a whole bottle, right? By yourself?
Well, yeah.
Don't so maybe it warmed, too.
Don't help me. Yeah. I'm sure it will. And I was watching a TV show, an hour-long show, and I savored it. Like, it was very much a let it rest, have a little bit more, let it rest.
I'm a fast beer drinker, and I'm like just taking little baby sips because I just want this to last. It's an excellent coffee stout, and I love and look for wake and bake every year. I pick up a 4-pack or two. I spread them out probably over like 2-3 months before they the coffee really fades. Just a bottle here, a bottle there. I don't rush through them.
And their release on that's what, October, November?
I want to. Yeah, it's
November.
I believe we usually see it in end of November, early December is usually when wake and bake shows up.
Yeah, because that means I really plowed through mine this year.
Well, there's still some on the shelves around here.
There's still some around, which is surprising. Maybe there was more that showed up this year than last year, but or there's just enough other things out there that people are more excited about. But I was surprised to see it. It seems like usually the wake and bake goes real fast, and the breakfast stout from Founders is plentiful. And this year it was kind of almost the opposite. Yep. Like the Founders breakfast stout's been a little harder to get, and it hasn't been allocated as much. And then the wake and bake, there's still a few cases sitting around at the local stores, sort of waiting to be picked up. Like so go out and get some, folks.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the procurement process for French Toasted. So Raymond just got a growler of this. Tell us about that. It was a special event day, right?
Yeah, it was. I got an email a couple of days ago from the beer growler and said we're going to release this at 12 o'clock. So be there, be ready.
Was that this weekend?
Yeah, okay. It was yesterday.
Right. Yesterday, okay.
So go ahead.
How many people were there?
When I got there maybe 10 after 12. There were 3 other people. One of those was not there to purchase the wake and bake.
Was there any kind of limit on how much you could buy?
No.
That would explain by the fact that by 1 o'clock it was gone.
Yeah, because I went in there not to pick that up, but I went in but Emily had a funeral or something to go to downtown yesterday. So me and my daughter went to the Mellow Mushroom and had some lunch and just sort of waited for her. And I thought, well, all right, I'm going to be downtown. I don't know how long she's going to be. I just grabbed some growlers. It's literally like almost a stone's throw from where we're having lunch. So I was like, I'll go fill a couple of things up. And I saw you put out on the Savannah beer app there that, come on down. They have this. By the time I got there, it was maybe 1:30 or so. It was gone.
Wow.
It was not on the board. And I thought either there was a delay in the posting of this or you were crazy or it just happened to have sold out. But I didn't know that there was going to be a release. I guess I'm not on the Beer Growlers mailing list or something like that. So so good. I'm glad they had success with that. I'm glad people came in and got it. I don't know how the lag was. And it's nice to know there wouldn't be a line down the block either.
No, there wasn't.
And for the bottles, we all were able to get bottles, right?
I got one.
And they didn't make it to the shelves.
No, I didn't see them out on a shelf anywhere. We have regular customer at a couple of stores. I think we all probably got our bottles from the same stores. And I did pretty well in going around. I picked up two for myself, and while I was out, I stopped by and got a third for our friend Brian down in Florida. I asked him if he needed a bottle. He said please, so next time I see him, he'll get one of those. And it was definitely a heavy got it, can I get a bottle kind of situation. So
French Toasted Wake and Bake is rocking a 94 on Beer Advocate, a 98 on Rate Beer.
To beer or not to beer? It's time for Beer Review Theater.
You guys, that sounds really classy. This sounds like this is going to be really great.
This is our classiest segment, for sure.
For today, we are actually going to rate beer for our review. This review is from I'm going to guess it's D. Rowland, not Drowland.
Can we call him Drowland?
Oh, sure, of course.
Yeah, I think that's better. I think that's better.
Drowland gave this a 3.9 overall on Rate Beer. So an aroma of 8 out of 10, an appearance. Interesting scales. Can people make their own determinations on Rate Beer as to what's what? I don't know.
Who knows?
An aroma of 8 out of 10, an appearance of 3 out of 5, a taste of 8 out of 10. I guess appearance does get knocked down. Taste of 8 out of 10, palate 4 out of 5. I guess that's mouthfeel palate. Yeah,
maybe.
Overall, a 16 out of 20. So basically a 4. A 3.9 is what he's giving it. So just reviewed a couple of weeks ago. And of course, a 22-ounce bottle. So Drowland is from Valdosta, Georgia.
Okay, good.
Not that far away. And I've known people from Valdosta, and I can only imagine that if we're doing this in Drowland's native tongue, it goes something like this. Whoever decided to double wax this can die in a fire. Why would you do this? Why? Black pour with a huge, loose, frothy tan head that cuts in half and laces mildly. It's been a while, but methinks this aroma doesn't depart too far from normal WNB. Perhaps a whiff of maple, cinnamon, mostly coffee. Lots in the flavor. Normal WNB dominates. Coffee, chocolate, creamy. Maple syrup jumps through pretty obviously. Cinnamon burn on the edge of my tongue. Bits of vanilla. Not bad. Still pissed about the wax. That was pretty great. That was pretty short. That was
a good one.
Simple.
I think that's spot on. I think that it's interesting to rate this beer because you're paying. It's a lot like that milk chocolate. The milk chocolate Moohoo from last year. You're paying a premium for something special and different, and it's not that all that different from the regular one. So how people will rate that. This beer is certainly no less delicious than Wake and Bake.
Yep.
For me, I give Wake and Bake pretty much a 5 out of 5. I love that beer. I think it's a great coffee stout.
Yeah.
Great coffee stout. It's got the ABV to back it up, and I mean it's delicious. This has a little bit of an extra element that makes it a little bit different than that. Not necessarily better, but am I going to go? But I had to run around town and say, pretty please, can I get a bottle? And it's not that different. And although the white chocolate wasn't that hard to get last year, I kind of felt like it was all smoke and mirrors. Maybe not intentional, but ultimately when they put that out, I'm like, you can just go get a 4-pack of white chocolate Moo-Hoo, and it's the same thing. I mean, it pretty much to me, a little bit slicker feeling, but it was pretty much the same. And I can understand this review because basically he said exactly all the same things we did about this aroma, the taste, and everything else, and the appearance. And then basically, are you disappointed that it's not insanely different, or are you cool with the fact that it's slightly different and really delicious?
I think we just got to be okay with the fact that the base beer is really good.
Yeah.
And there was some running around that had to be done to get this beer. There were some phone calls that had to be made. There were some backroom exchanges, perhaps, in order to get the beer to go home with you. But if the base beer was bad, none of this would even be a conversation. We wouldn't even be considering trying to track this beer down.
Right.
So I think this is a great example of scarcity and rarity not making us lose our minds over a beer. That being said, it's really good. If this was something where we had never had regular Wake and Bake, this might be like a mind-blowing beer. Honestly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's absolutely true. So I think the guy who trades for this in Minneapolis, doing a nice little surly for Terrapin trade or something like that, and if he's never had Wake and Bake for whatever reason, he's going to try this, and I think he's going to be, wow.
Well, let me tell you, if you're trading from someplace else, get them to throw in a Wake and Bake on this, because I think that would be great to drink side by side, and just that's one of those beers that I'm really proud for regular Wake and Bake. That is a local, I'm doing air quotes. I mean, it's not right here where we are, but it's close enough to where we are. Local beer that is really an outstanding example of style that we're super psyched to get every year, and that actually has trade potential. I mean, people like to get from outside of the area who have had this beer, like are really excited to try to trade for it again.
It's not something that, by law, the Georgia breweries can do, but I think if the laws here were different, and they might be soon, knock on wood, but it's one of those situations where if Terrapin made this next year with different laws, they might be looking at making a brewery release day. And, I'm talking about Wake and Bake, just regular Wake and Bake, where it was like, oh, they got this amazing coffee beer, you got to come line up for it. And then growing that buzz and actually doing a beer day release event kind of situation. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's that good of a beer. It's just we're lucky enough that when it comes out, we get to go down to the store and pick up, almost as many 4-packs as we want.
And I'm totally on board with that. Raymond, what do you think? I mean, are you sensitive to any real differences in this beer from Wake and Bake? I mean, I think there are some.
Oh, sure. The maple certainly stands out, and I get the cinnamon. I didn't pick up that at the very beginning, but now that it's starting to warm up, I tasted a little bit more. And I like that. So it's definitely different, but I'm not disappointed, but I like Wake and Bake. I just like Wake and Bake.
Yeah,
it's when I keep it in the closet all the time, and it's ready to drink whenever I want it. And
I feel the same way. I'm certainly not disappointed in this beer, and I'm really glad that I have a couple of bottles to enjoy.
Me too.
But at the same time, I'm like, not that, and I think what's actually kind of ironic is last year they did variants of both the Moo-Hoo this year and last year. This year it was the Moo-Hoo Chiato, so like a kind of like a coffee Moo-Hoo, and then this year this one instead of the cinnamon roll. So they actually switched it around, and I felt like whereas last year the Moo-Hoo variant wasn't that different from the original, and Wake and Bake was. This year it's actually flip flop, because the Moo-Chiato is a lot different.
A lot different.
And what I have to imagine, a lot of people suggest mixing the Moo-Hoo and the Wake and Bake. I've never done it.
Stop it.
Yeah, I mean, people said, "Oh, you've got to do this." So I've never done
It's
it.
just gluttony. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like I got these 2 rare beers. I'm just gonna mix them together.
So,
Screw all you guys. who
I think
can't
that's
get
what
it.
what you kind of get with the Muhukiato. I was like, oh, I think this is pretty much what that must taste like, And anyways, it's like I think it's kind of funny that like the difference or the shocking difference flip flopped on those 2 variants this year.
I gotta tell you, I actually have had a couple of beers mixed together recently, which I thought were really good. In particular, the Southern Tier, Pumpkin and Warlock.
Yeah.
I thought those were great mixed together. But I don't know if it was on, I guess if it was on draft and there was plenty of it, like that's a whole different scenario. Then I've got 2 bottles that I ran around town for.
Right.
I'm like, now I'm going to do this mess. I don't know. 9.4% ABV, technically an imperial stout on this. What do you think about cellaring it? Is this something you should hold on to or just drink?
I think it's going to be incidentally aged by me because I just tend to get things and I go, oh, let me wait for a good time to share that. Let me find someone to share it with. It took me a long time to drink my cinnamon rolled. I think I had 2 bottles of that too. I drank one pretty much right away. And the second one I just sat on because I was like, wow, it's such a good beer. I just don't want to drink it on like a random any day. Eventually I kind of didn't end up doing that because I was like, well, I got to eventually drink this beer because it's going to age itself into oblivion. It still tasted really good. It actually held up surprisingly well. I think this one probably would too. The only benefit I can think to aging this is the coffee will fade and maybe that maple sweetness will come up. So I'm a little bit more inclined to maybe sit on my second bottle of this a little bit longer this time around and maybe shoot for a year and a half. But I think I almost got to a year on the cinnamon rolled anyways. I think it was when they started talking about the brewing and the creation of this. I said, holy smokes, I still got a cinnamon roll. I should probably drink that before it's no good anymore, So I think this one has a little bit of potential. As long as you're okay with that fading. I don't know how long it'll take, but as long as you're okay with that, I think it would age pretty well.
French Toasted Wake and Bake. I love this beer. The first time I had it, I think I gave it a 4 out of 5. I feel like the character's a little bit different this time. It may be because I've had it before and that initial boom has worn off. It could be because we just had another really kind of aggressive beer before this one. I might knock it a little bit after this current situation, but it's still really strong. It's one of those beers where you can't be like, go out and get it, because guess what? You can't.
Yeah.
But if anybody wants to try us a King Henry for it, we've got some bottles.
We got a couple.
For more about us and Brew Drink Run, go to brewdrinkrun.com. Follow us on Twitter at Brew Drink Run or on Facebook at facebook.com/Brew Drink Run. Plus, we're also on Untapped. If you want to be a part of the show, email us at team@brewdrinkrun.com. Do that to let us know about your home brewing, your running training, or your favorite beer destination. Or just send us some audio. Call us at 781-76-DRINK, and you may hear yourself on the show. We also have Brew Drink Run t-shirts and technical running shirts at our website. Click on the store link. Our theme music is provided by Morning Lights. Thanks for joining us. We will see you at the bar. Cheers.
Cheers.